Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Pokemon FireRed. In the last part, we went through a lot of the side routes to the east of Fusion before finding ourselves here in Saffron City. And now this Team Rocket Grunt's taking us new, so we're free to head into the largest dungeon in the game, Silph Co. Love this musical track, by the way, even though it gets a bit too tense for its own good. This place is huge! 11 floors tall, to be precise. And most of it is a teleport tile maze. Whenever you step on one of these little specialized tiles, you get teleported elsewhere. However, there's a couple of ways to make it simpler. Obviously, you can make your own map, or you could do what I do, come to the 5th floor, do that little teleport there, and grab this. This is the card key. This allows us to open any of the little locked doors like the one there on the left side of the screen. And from there, what I like to do is just start at the bottom, work my way up, fighting every trainer and grabbing every item I can along the way. If you want to beat this place quickly, and I mean like within maybe 15 minutes without editing quickly, grab this, head down to the 3rd floor, and then I'll direct you when we actually get there ourselves. For now, we're actually going to clear the 5th floor. With that said, you can't actually do this until you've beaten the Rocket headquarters, if I recall correctly. After that, though, as long as you've beaten that, you can do anything here. But because of that, again, the levels here are more or less the same as we've seen on the routes to Fuchsia in either direction. And a lot of them are Team Rocket Grunts. I think there's close to 20 of them in this place. And that means you're fighting a lot of the same Pokemon here. A lot of the Drowsy line, a lot of the Rattata line, Zubat line, Coughing line, and Voltorb line are what you're going to see a lot of. A couple of Ekans and Arboks along the way as well. A lot of the Pokemon here are very samey. There's a couple of required fights along the way, but as well, especially after you get the card key, a lot of them do become optional. I do show the ones that are required for the floors they're on, but otherwise, this place can be... It drags on, honestly. Which is, I think, a problem a lot of the early Pokemon games have in some of their dungeon design. One that immediately comes to mind is the Radio Tower sequence in Gen 2. For a lot of the same reasons, actually, here, due to the team you're fighting in that game using more or less the exact same Pokemon, because it's Team Rocket again. Which is another problem that early Pokemon really had, now that I think about it, because even Gen 3 has had to an extent. Gen 4 is where they started to get it right, whereas Gen 5 onwards, I think, when there were dungeons, hit the nail right on the head in terms of length. And I should note, when I say dungeons, I'm not counting, like... I'm talking more about these kind of plot dungeons where there's actual, like, trainers to fight along the way and no random battles. Caves are a bit different to talk about, because that's more just standard world adventure design. In terms of how you'd want to pace that out. Whereas dungeons like this... RPG design is weird to talk about compared to other types of games. Thankfully, compared to the other place in Gen 2, there are a few different trainers to fight along the way here. There are the obvious Team Rocket Grunts, and there are a lot of them. But interspersing between them all is a bunch of scientists that use electric-type Pokemon, a couple of jugglers that use other types of Pokemon, so on and so forth. This floor here is where you want to go, though, if you're just trying to beat this place really quickly. Because the gate directly to my southwest right now has a teleport tile that will take you right to the end of the dungeon. Well, not right to it. You need to go through another room to get there, but you're on a linear path once you're on there. I would still recommend going through all the trainers here first, because that's a lot of experience you've been missing out on otherwise. Because if you go through that route, you only have to fight a total of, I believe, technically only 3 battles. And while they're good for experience points all the same, you're missing out on so many. Like, I do have a document keeping track not only of the new Pokemon I encounter each part, just for bringing up any Pokemon notes, but also of the trainers I encounter, just in case I think I missed one, and I can just cross-reference it with the Bulbapedia or Cerebi pages for each of the routes. Let's see. Part 14 starts with number 230 and ends at number 260. There are 30 trainers-ish in this place. That is a lot. Something I also do that makes this recording session a bit longer than it needs to be is backtrack out every now and then if my Pokemon are taking too much of a beating to use the Pokemon Center. You don't need to do that. I'm only doing it because it allows me to save the later floors for later, if that makes sense. Because on floor 9, especially after you get the card key, there is a semi-Pokemon Center you gain access to up there that will make things a lot more comfortable for you. For my tastes, though, especially when I'm this low down, it's just more worth my time to use the Pokemon Center. There's also a lot of good items to grab here in Silph Co, and I recommend doing it while you can. Although you never lose access to these items. You do lose access to most, if not all, of the trainers, though. I believe also every floor has a hidden item in one of the pieces of foliage, so make sure you check every plant you can. I think I grabbed most of them, but I honestly can't recall because this place is big. Also, there's nothing in this little center room, but if you want to go talk to these people, technically speaking, this next fight is required. Alright, maybe not this fight, the fight after this. It's weird, though, because Team Rocket is such an iconic Pokemon team, mostly because they're the first one. But looking back, outside of Jesse and James in the anime and Giovanni, they're rather bland. They're just straight-up Mafia Yakuza types, whereas Gen 2's incarnation at least had something in their bosses. Gen 3 had a bit more personality, especially in the remake, due to the Maxie and Archie rivalry. Galactic was bland as hell in my eyes, aside from Cyrus. Plasma might be the first honestly interesting team because they bring up a good point even if they're ultimately misguided. And then Team Fire was a big backtrack. Team Skull is probably the first proper team that's actually like completely enjoyable just because they're just so funny. And they're just misunderstood kids. And then Team Yell decided to be a complete joke too. What I'm trying to say is, despite being very key to the Pokemon structure, the team mechanics of the storyline have never been that big. Like, Gen 7, in my eyes, does have the best layout of the team story versus the main story, just because you do both so well along the way, even if there is a bunch of railroading and cutscenes along the way that, to some people, slow down the experience. Because something that I felt... I'm going to talk about Sword and Shield right now, so if you haven't played that game yet, even though it's... the first DLC might be out by the time this gets uploaded, honestly. I recommend not listening for like maybe next 20, 40 seconds. While I like how Sword and Shield handled the Pokemon League angle of the storyline, as well as how they implemented the team more or less just being there to root on one of your rivals, I think they missed out on the main story angle that they've been having going since Gen 5 in that game, because all of the stuff related to the Dynamaxing and Mr. Rose happens off-screen, and I don't like that. I think there's a healthy medium between the League and main storyline stuff that starts in more or less actually Gen 2 or 3, less so here. But they just have seldom been able to really hit that medium. And if you're just coming back, I think that was about 40 seconds ago. Hello. That was a rant. Also, I don't think I've mentioned it yet, but at this point, I am saving all my nuggets, stardusts, all the sale items, essentially, just before the endgame, because, frankly, I just like to see how big my number gets by endgame. Because if you, especially if you fight every trainer and have to do some grinding by refighting some other trainers, particularly things maybe on Route 17, or if you're closer to endgame. No, even then, Route 17 is still really good for grinding. Maybe Route 14. You're going to get a lot of money anyway, so you never need to actively sell those. It's why I brought up back in Cerulean why I just don't do the Nugget Bridge glitch in Fire Red and Leaf Green, because you get more than enough money just by playing the game. Also, the speed-up themes this part, even though I haven't talked about the speed-up themes in a while, are all from that Metabots game on the Game Boy Advance that I did a Let's Play of. I recommend you check it out. One of the few of it on YouTube. Hashtag shameless plug. I'm actually very proud of how that LP came out. And hey, here's the bed. It's a bed. You can only get this if you have the card key, but you can't actively beat the area unless you have the card key anyway. I legitimately am curious as to how they intend you to figure out this area, aside from just pure trial and error, because I don't think any of the rocket grunts hint towards where the card key might be. You're just supposed to explore and find it, which, I get it. It was the way RPGs were designed in the 90s. It's how Pokemon started out. But the very explorative angle of Pokemon, especially in Gen 1, where you have a lot of free reign about where you can go starting from Celadon, I don't like for Pokemon because the level curve extraordinarily suffers due to it. Gen 2 has a lot of that same issue, as I brought up a couple times, and while it does it to a lesser extent, in terms of the amount of routes you have, the length of those routes make the Pokemon levels suffer even harder than they do here, I feel. You know, I just realized that this is a Team Rocket member with only one. I technically didn't even need to speed this up, because at this point I think we're only at like, what, 1.25 speed? How slow that was threw me off. With that, though, we are now on floor 10. We are almost at the top of Silph Co. Again, you can get through this place in like 15 minutes if you take that teleporter pad on the 3rd floor after getting the card key. I just want to get all this experience points and show off all the items. At least as many as I can find. I think they changed some item locations around from red, blue, and yellow throughout the maps. I think some of the map layouts changed a little bit in general. Because this isn't a 1-to-1 remake, it's more like a 1-to-1.3. Because they had to obviously finally fix some of the glitches, but also just make things a bit more fair to the player, I think is how they made it. But the tile layouts are generally 1-to-1. Oh, hey, what are you doing here? What kept you, Kyle? I thought you'd turn up if I waited here. I guess Team Rocket slowed you down. Not that I care. I saw you in Saffron, so I decided to see if you got better. Blue is back, and his team has been expanded a little bit once again. Starting off, his Pidgeotto has now evolved into a Pidgeot. This evolves starting from level 36. It's still a normal flying type, meaning it's weak to electric, ice, and rock. This particular one has the Keen Eye ability, preventing you from lowering its accuracy. Otherwise, it's got Wing Attack, Feather Dance, Quick Attack, and Whirlwind. Feather Dance, by the way, is a non-damaging attack that lowers the target's attack by 2 stages. Arguably now the easiest member of its team at this point in the game if you have an electric type, just because it's going to be high level and you'll probably have Thunderbolts, Thunder, or something along those lines. Second up, he's going to send out his Growlithe. Intimidate, so you're going to have some of your attack lowered. Roar, Flame Wheel, Leer, and Takedown. This is arguably the easiest member of his team, just because it doesn't have much in the way of stab, and its physical attacks don't leave a lot to be desired. Or rather, its actual attacks. Roar can be annoying because that will, I believe, in this game, take the current Pokemon in your field and switch it with one of your other ones. I always get Roar confused with, I think, another ability, and I can never remember exactly which one it is. Next up is Executes. Still has Chlorophyll, so if you use Sunny Day, its speed's going to double. Confusion, Hypnosis, Leech Seed, and Stun Spore. With the Charmander team, this is arguably its most annoying Pokemon. If you don't have a Fire type for some reason, just because that setup is pretty decent. If you have Bulbasaur, he has a Gyarados in that place, I believe, instead of the Growlithe, which has Dragon Rage, Twister, Bite, and Leer. Next up is the Blastoise Torrent, so it's at low HPs, its water-type moves get more powerful. Rapid Spin, Water Gun, Protect, and Bite. Protect, I think, is something that I haven't talked about yet. There are certain moves that just prevent them from taking damage for a turn, and they are what are known as priority moves. I actually don't think I've talked about these in general, despite having Quick Attack more or less the entire game. Essentially, some games have a priority, which means that if a Pokemon uses it, that move will go first no matter what. Protect is a priority 1 move. Quick Attack's a priority 1 move. There's a couple of priority 2 moves, like Extreme Speed's one of them. I think there's even priority negative ones, so you're guaranteed to go second if you use it. The only thing of note beyond that, they are very useful types of moves, but something to note is that in case, say, even though Andrew doesn't have Quick Attack, say it used Quick Attack as did a rival Pikachu, whichever one of them is faster would go first in that case. If they both use priority moves, it's just down to whoever's faster. Alright, final Pokemon is an Alakazam Synchronize. It has Synchronize for an ability, so don't inflict status ailments unless you want them thrown back at you. Future Sight, Calm Mind, Reflect, and Recover. This thing's only actual damaging move takes a couple turns to come out, so if you can be quick on the draw and taking it out, it's not much of a threat. I don't know how he got an Alakazam, though, because that means he would have to have friends. And he thinks he's probably too cool for those, because, you know, 90s. Oh, man. So, you are ready for Boss Rocket. Well, Kyle, I'm moving on up and ahead. By checking my Pokédex, I'm starting to see what's strong and how they evolve. Am I a genius or what? I'm going to the Pokemon League to boot out the Elite Four. I'll become the world's most powerful trainer. Kyle, well, good luck to you. Don't sweat it. Smell ya. Why were you here? Oh, hi, you're not a rocket. You came to save us? Why, thank you. I want you to have this Pokemon for saving us. And we get a Lapras. This is sort of the Pokemon they intended to use Surf with. It's a water-ice type, meaning it's weak to fighting, rock, grass, and electric. It's got a really high HP stat and some decent special defense from memory, but my Vaporeon's better is the best way to look at it. Also, looking at my notes, I completely forgot to talk about the Blastoise and Alakazam because they're new Pokemon. Blastoise, still a water type, so grass and electric are its only weaknesses, and its focus is defenses. Its defense and special defense are its highest stats. It's the tank, so to speak, of the three starters. Alakazam, on the other hand, is the final evolution of the Kadabra line, only evolves via trading, so that's why I made the joke about him having no friends. Still a pure psychic type, meaning it is weak to Bug, Ghost, and Dark, and its highest stat is special attack by a long run. It's also got some decent speed. Ah, Kyle. So we meet again. The President and I are discussing a vital business proposition. Keep your nose out of grown-up matters, or experience a world of pain. Second fight against Giovanni isn't too different than the first one. Starting off, he's going to throw out his Nidorino with the Poison Point ability, which means try to avoid physical attacks, because you're probably going to get poisoned. Horn Attack, Poison Sting, Fury Attack, and Helping Hand. I don't know why the hell they gave a boss fight the Helping Hand ability, given that's mostly only used in double battles. But as you can see, Fire type takes that down no problem. Next up, I believe, is his Rhyhorn? Yes. Rock Head for the ability, which prevents, I believe that prevents recoil damage. Fury Attack, Scary Face, Tail Whip, Rock Blast. This thing is trying to turn down your stats for the next Pokemon, more or less. Rock Blast isn't even too much to fear about. A good water move will take that down no problem. And yes, I realize that's a problem with my Rhyhorn, but I'm not stupid enough to throw out a Rhyhorn against a water type. I think it's the best way to put it. Kangaskhan has the early bird ability, so usual there. Fake Out, Rage, Mega Punch, Tail Whip. That Mega Punch ability in particular can be kind of annoying, just because given this thing's stats, that's still going to do a decent chunk of damage. Sure, Vaporeon's health stat is ridiculous, but still, that's 41 damage. That's about half of some of my Pokemon's HP still at this point, I think. Or just around it, especially if you get a critical hit like that. Good God. His final Pokemon is his most interesting. It's a Nidoqueen. This is the fully evolved form of Nidoran female after using a Moonstone on Nidorina. Poison Point for its ability, Double Kick, Tail Whip, Poison Sting, and Body Slam. If this thing's not poisoning you, you're going to be taking a lot of damage from Double Kick anyway, because that hits twice and both hits are relatively strong. As for Nidoqueen itself, though, still a Poison Ground type, weak to Ground, Water, Psychic, and Ice. It's about as balanced as Nidoking, I think. I think its stats are actually a little weaker than Nidoking's. I just like the design more because I like purple a lot, especially in my projects that I do for my school and probably for my job in the future, too. But the blue is just really nice on Nidoqueen. I think its highest stats are its defenses, but even then, they're not too much to worry about at this point. Ugh, I lost again? Blast it all! You ruined our plans for Silph. But Team Rocket will never fall. Kyle, never forget that all Pokemon exist for Team Rocket. I must go, but I shall return. Oh, dear boy. Thank you for saving Silph. I will never forget you saved us in our moment of peril. I have to thank you in some way. Because I am rich, I can give you anything. Here, maybe this will do. And we get the Master Ball. This is very important. You can't buy that anywhere. It's our secret prototype Master Ball. It'll catch any Pokemon without fail. You should be quiet about using it though. And he means that. The Master Ball has a catch rate of 255x, meaning you have a max catch rate against everything. Technically, mathematically, especially in the older games, there was a chance it could fail, but it's about as common as, I don't know, what's the joke about a rare item I can make here? The pink tail in Final Fantasy IV? I don't know. It's very rare and it's not likely to happen is the bottom line here. And before we end things off here, now that Team Rocket's gone, we can access this house now. This girl up here in this room is Copycat. It's interesting because she actually implies that Red/protagonist is speaking. And while yeah, that implications is always there, this is the closest we get to actually hearing them speak. I think in the original game, or is it Gen 2, she actually does completely mimic your appearance too. Something important though is that if we check her desk, but not her computer, we can find a nugget there and I'll just take that free 5,000. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 15, well, we've done the Fighting Dojo, we've taken care of Team Rocket. There's only one thing left to do here in Saffron City, and we're gonna go ahead and do that. See you guys then.